what we're doing in this seminar, this uHIT Academy seminar, is a little bit different from what we've done in the past. In the past, we've talked about specific features in uHIT. We've spoken to authors of books that get into how the brain works in sports. We've spoken to professional players. We've spoken to other coaches in the field, but this is really going to be focused on parents. It's going to be focused on parent coaches in particular, and we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking with a couple of parents who one is a parent of a newly Division I arrived softball player. So I'll be introducing Tracy Pearson in a second, and then the other parent, Kyle Harris. His daughter is playing travel ball right now. She's a teenager, just getting into high school ball, and on that same path, of hopefully playing college ball at some point. So we're going to be looking at that, kind of the individualized training issues that come up, accountability, teaching accountability at this age, and how that all intersects with what you do in in individualized training methods like uHIT, but not just uHIT. I mean, you can talk about blast motion for your swing mechanics. You could talk about weight training. You could talk about speed training. All is individualized training methods that will help you, reach the next level. And so we're going to be talking with each of these parents and fielding any questions that pop up to us in the chat during the session. Also, what we're going to do is ask some of the questions that we've had sent to us ahead of time. Some people, we're going to come and see the video after it's posted on our YouTube channel later, where all of our uHIT Academy videos are posted. The next one that will be posted there in a few weeks is going to be the one we did with Matt Lyle a couple weeks ago. And so this isn't just for the folks who are on the seminar right now. This is for the 60,000 plus users of uHIT in both baseball and softball over these last several years, many of whom go to our YouTube channel for more info about how to utilize uHIT and other products for individualized training. So with that, so that's kind of giving you an overview of what we're going to be doing today. And you can participate anytime by, at the bottom of the screen, there is a chat button. If you hit that, it will open up a chat dialog to the right side of the screen. And that's where you'll be able to put any questions that you have. And also, as the session goes on, I'm going to put a couple of opportunities in there for you guys. If you do decide to engage a little bit further with how uHIT works, getting some of the customized training and things like that going for your son or for your daughter. So that's where a lot of action is going to happen in that chat dialogue to the right there. So without further ado, I think what we're going to do is we're going to introduce our parents who are here. We have, I think, there were 3 parents that were supposed to be coming. I think one of them, he's having a little problem logging in. So we're going to start with the 2 that are here right now. First, we got Kyle Harris. So Kyle, I think your camera, there we go. Okay. So Kyle's up there, for me at least. And he's a coach in Ohio. I'll let him introduce a little bit more of his background. But his daughter, Jaden, has been using uHIT's customized training for about a year plus at this point. And we're gonna look at some of those kind of like real life example results that we've seen with Jaden and that we've seen with other players, but really illustrate it with some things that Kyle's seeing as her parent coach, and then also some things we're seeing on the data side along the way. So Kyle, if you want to just throw in a few words kind of about your background in baseball and softball, I think that'll help everybody on the call kind of see where you're coming from.
Okay. Well, I played high school and college ball, and my dad has run a training facility since really it started in our backyard accidentally, and it grew into something that required the start of a business. And that's been going on for about 25 years now. So I have a background in playing. I coached high school baseball for 13 years. I've coached literally every single level of baseball or softball, from 3-year-olds and coach pitch all the way up to college. And right now, basically, I work in a facility where we do one-on-ones or group training, where we do integrated training, where we look at everything with the ball player. We don't just do like individualized lessons. That is something we offer, but we work on everything. So it's from strength training to vision training, approach, things like that. We address the whole athlete. My daughter, Jaden, she is 12, and she started playing softball, probably because I wanted her to, but she really does love softball. And I mean, she works as hard or harder than anybody I know at anything when it comes to softball. And uHIT's been really helpful for her. And originally we got into uHIT because we wanted to use it at our facility. We wanted to try to use it as part of our integrated training. And it never came to fruition the way we kind of wanted it to. Every time we started getting someplace where we could, something would happen. So Jaden started using it, and now we actually have several kids that come to us that just do it on their own. They don't do it at the facility, which is actually nice because we are limited with what we can do because our building is not huge. So we kind of have to shuffle kids in and out a little bit quicker than we'd like to. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and I'm glad you brought that up with kind of how uHIT's developed with Bob Harris School too. And I think it's something that a lot of one of the reasons that we particularly had this seminar to look at parent coaching topics is that for facility owners getting it started was like there were a lot of question marks, and it just seemed like it was more of a direct thing to speak to the parents about, and something that they're a little more capable of taking the next step. And we've seen great results with that with Jaden. I mean, she's in this class of kids that we've worked with who you don't have to ask to do her homework.
Right.
and
Right.
And she's really reaping the benefits of that. So we'll talk about that and look at some even some videos from taking some cage cuts and look at some stats later on that. So I appreciate that intro, and that's great. Thanks, Kyle. So I want to turn to Tracy. Tracy Pearson. Tracy, I don't think your camera. There we go. Okay. So Tracy is a mom of a newly Division I softball player, Jenna. Now Jenna is someone who started doing uHIT for softball also with a travel team in Virginia, the Glory Fast Pitch team, led by Coach Susie Williamson. And Susie's one of those coaches who, similar to with Kyle at Bob Harris School, they're trying to take this all the above approach into the various ways that you can individualize training for an athlete. And one of the things that Tracy has noticed about the path that Jenna took from travel ball getting up to playing in college has been really getting that kind of expert coaching. And we'll talk a lot more about that, I think, here, and look even at some of the results from Jenny using customized training over the last year with Glory as she transitioned to Virginia Tech. But Tracy, do you want to maybe give a few words kind of on where your background and kind of experience with is?
Well, I'm a mom of a softball player, and she started. I applaud him. His daughter's only 12. I think Jenna started using uHIT maybe not quite a year and a half ago. But that's one of the things that is so impressive is that all the technology that's out there to help you get that extra edge on the kids that you're competing with, that you're going to play with, just to help you at the next level. So that was something Jenna was really interested in doing. And it was not only before she committed when she was looking, but, a lot of people think once a kid commits to a school and that's the easy, all the hard work's over. For her, it was different. It was like this clock was going off, and now I only have X amount of days to get ready for that first day that I walk in. So she was looking for anything that would help her get better, and uHIT was great because it was something she can do on her own, and it just helped her, you know, you work on your swing, the mechanical parts of it, but if you can buy time, that extra fraction of a second it is to help you discern if a pitch is something you're going to swing at, you know, or you're not, it's just another added benefit. So for her, especially playing at that level where there was going to be pitching that she honestly, you know, I mean, she was lucky. The speed of pitching, the kind of pitching that you see in travel ball is great at like these big national tournaments, but it's not necessarily something you see every day. So for her, uHIT was great because it gave her that accessibility to push herself at a higher level than she had on a daily basis. So
Yeah, no, that's great. And we'll, I'm glad you brought up that kind of fraction of a second, you know, topic with Jenna, because that is something we'll take a look at in her zone recognition, you know, customized training kind of, she was already good at recognizing parts of the zone. But what happened, what we saw with her customized training was she got faster at recognizing when it was in the zone. And that's something that, you know, we've seen translate into extra base hits and, you know, being able to drive power, you know, to the ball on the field. And so, you know, when she then makes that transition to D1, it's something, you know, she's a little more, you know, ready for. So I'm going to, so we're going to dive into that too, when we're looking at some details, you know, with Jenna, and then side by side also with Jaden. So I'm going to, in case there's anybody on the call who, you know, hasn't seen uHIT, says, what is all this about? How does this work? What did Jaden do? What did Jenna do? I'm going to bring up on the screen some visuals just so you guys can see what's going on in the uHIT app, and then just to orient everybody to really where this all, how this all works, right? So I'm going to bring up, since we're talking about softball, I'm just going to stick with the softball theme right here. And so I'm going to share my screen. This is what you see when you come into the uHIT app. This is just a simple kind of screen capture, but you get the ability right away to be taken through a customized pathway to gear it towards what are your particular hitting vision goals. You're at to choose whether you're a righty or a lefty. This is an important step here because if you have what we call customized training with AI, you get an assessment up front that measures how well you're doing zone recognition, different parts of the zone, how well you're recognizing different pitch types. So for baseball, fastballs, curveballs, sliders; for softball, rise balls, drop balls, curveballs, and even some change-ups. And these are customized training plans that are made off of those assessments. Here, showing it for a Cal State Fullerton player, Remington. But you know, it's important to work on the right-handed pitchers, RHB, the left-handed pitchers, LHB. And these different numbers here, AI2, AI3, these are the different rounds of customized training that they're on. And we can talk more about those rounds as we look at Jenna and Jaden's you know, progression here. But this is a level of customized training that you get where you can, you know, make it specific to what are your strengths and weaknesses. Now, one thing that's very important to point out with uHIT is that it's an automated coach, right? Tracy was talking about how, you know, Jenna can do this on her own, right? And one of the things about baseball and softball is that you're never doing it on your own. Right? It's always you got a teammate you're working with, you're playing catch with somebody, you're taking batting practice off of somebody pitching. So it's a very, you know, it's an individualized sport, but at the same time, there is this coach element that's really indispensable. And so one of the things with uHIT, you did just see a snippet of him in the previous screen, is our automated coach, Coach Hewitt. And he really kind of guides you through the customized training. And so when you come up to these screens and say, like, you know, do you want to connect to your device for a better experience? Or, you know, how do we keep you in good hitting, you know, progress? This step of connect and then allowing the notifications is very important, because in the same way that your coach is reminding you to stay on top of things, steering you when you're not doing so well in one area versus another area, this is what uHIT does for you too, in an automated kind of coach fashion. So it's a big efficiency gain, really, on an area that's very difficult, I think, for a lot of coaches to even put into practice. Which is, it's one thing to see the swing, to see the visible mechanics, is what a softball coach, Rob Cruz, likes to call them. It's another thing to look at the invisible mechanics, which is also a term he came up with. Those invisible mechanics of how you see the movement of the pitches. But when you come into uHIT, you get launched right away based on your goals into, let's say I wanted to do pitch recognition. You get a little, quick tutorial about what's going on with points, remaining pitches, XP. These are what kind of guide you through the various levels. The ability to turn on, kind of like in the upper right corner, the ability to turn on like a VR mode and move it around like you're up at home plate. And that has really, I think, created a huge level of realism since we released it this summer for a lot of players, being able to really feel like they're up at the plate without the thousands of dollars for VR equipment to be to have that simulated feeling of being up at the plate. And what's going on here is when I think this is the pitch I'm looking for. I think this was I don't remember what kind of pitch this was. I was looking for a curveball here. And I think that's a curveball I tapped. That's what's shown on the screen right there. And I get the instant feedback that, yes, that was correct. This was a curveball. And I tapped fast enough to even get a speed bonus, right? So that's really what we're doing here, is we're trying to look for a pitch. We're tapping as soon as we recognize it. Here I'm looking curveball again. That one I tapped on, and yes, again, that was a curveball. Now, I was a little bit slower. I don't get as much of a speed bonus. And that's really an important factor here. Like we're talking about those fractions of a second, uHIT is telling you not only did you recognize the pitch right, but how quickly did you do it? Because that's important when you're up at the plate too. It's not just, are you a good umpire, but it's, are you a good hitter, and can you make that call fast enough? So with that pitch, there was no tap actually, and you see that kind of had a different trajectory to it, even though I was looking for a curveball. It had a little bit more of a drop to it, which you can kind of see there. So no tap when I'm looking for a curveball. Turned out this is a drop ball. So this is about impulse control here, right? How do I shut down? You don't swing at every pitch, and you don't tap at every pitch on uHIT either. That's what we're measuring. It's how well can you discriminate what you got to go on and what you got to no go on. And when you go, how quickly can you do that? Okay. So that's just kind of like a quick, what is uHIT? How does it work? Using these kinds of, simulations, really, we're helping you not only measure where you are with pitch recognition, but then take that next step to then modify the speeds of these pitches, the difficulty of, how many points XP you have to cover, et cetera, to get to the next level. So I think from there, what we'll do is I'll transition into showing really how customized training worked in the case of Jenna and Jaden. Now that you guys kind of have a feel for what's going on in uHIT. So I'm going to switch the share here. And we should all be looking at right now the profile for Jaden. And so now this is on the kind of what we call the coach tracking dashboard. All of this data, by the way, is shown in the uHIT app. So we'll switch to where that is a little bit later, potentially to show you, but it's in My Stats on the main menu there. So we're gonna kind of track where Jaden was on her assessment, where she was as she was, working her customized training. We used to call it development, so that's why it says a little differently here. When we were working with the Bob Harris School, and then later on when she has switched to full on what we call customized training, kind of what the progression has been. But it's important to know the starting point, right? Because if you don't have a measurement of where you are, you have no idea about where you need to be, and less so about how you're going to get there, right? And so with Jaden, when she first did her assessment in pitch recognition, she was around 52%. And now, if we're talking batting averages, 52% is fantastic, right? You're batting 525, right? Now, in recognizing pitches, go, no go, where you got two choices to make, 50% is bad. So you want to be as high above 50% as possible, because really the closer you are to 50% means you're either tapping on every pitch, or it means you're just like letting everyone go and you're not really seeing the difference between when you should go and not go. So, we had a lot of work cut out for us with Jaden, and and there's no problem really with that. I mean, it's, you have to be comfortable, I think, getting negative feedback, and it's really to Jaden's credit that, she took that kind of starting point and said, all right, I know I'm not amazing at this, but it's telling me I have work to do, and I'm going to do it. And so keep in mind this starting point, 52% accuracy, and keep in mind this reaction time here, 586. Okay. And now if you looked at how this accuracy broke down by different pitches, drop balls, curve balls, rise balls, it's pretty even across the board here, right? So there wasn't one pitch that was, one type of movement, horizontal movement or vertical movement, that was particularly troublesome, right? It was just kind of across the board. And so what we did with Jaden was, with her customized training, we took this data, we pushed it through our AI, and our AI said, you know what, we got to pull down the speeds a little bit, because she's not seeing the difference between the horizontal movement, the vertical movement. And so we have to give her a little more time to do that so she can learn what those differences are, and then be able to incorporate that on a synaptic level to be able to react in the amount of time that she has, right? And so just after, I'd say this is probably after about a year, maybe about 10 months, we're here with her. Now, notice the number of sessions. I mean, she's cranked 89 sessions from her assessment to about 10 months later or so. And look at her accuracy. Her accuracy goes from 52, right, to 70%, okay? And so, you see this huge increase in accuracy. You see now a little more differentiation across the types of pitches down here, right? Drop balls, rise balls, very clear high percentages, right? 80 plus on both of those. Now, curveballs in softball, those are the ones that actually have the most horizontal movement to them, of these three pitches, at least. And so what it's kind of telling us here is that, Jaden's gotten really good at telling the vertical movement of pitches, right? Now, the horizontal movement is something where, it's great. I mean, it's way better than it was, but, it's still lower than it is for her vertical. And, everyone's going to have different abilities, vertical threshold wise versus horizontal threshold wise. And actually, I want to switch gears at this point, Kyle, and bring you into the conversation, because I'm going to bring up on screen a video that you sent to us a while ago, with her talking about vertical movement recognition. And do you want to maybe give a little context in terms of where this video came from, and what was going on? Who was she facing? What was this at the beginning of the season, the end of the season? What can you give us maybe a little narrative on this?
So this would have been Jaden. This would have been before her season even started. This would have been, oh man, I'm trying to think. It would have been in the spring, probably like right after kind of the lockdowns were being lifted for COVID. Mm-hmm. And the great thing about that for her was, I teach, so I was home all day teaching online, and I was able to take her out, and Jaden works, like you mentioned, like she's not one you have to tell to do her homework. Like just today, for example, I was down here working on some individualized plans for a organization I'm working with, and watching some football, and she came down and stole the iPad from me and did uHIT. I mean, she just does that stuff on her own. But this would have been a college pitcher that trained at our facility. She went to the high school in the same district I teach, was all league 3 or 4 times, I think, and she pitches in college now, and she pitched against Jaden. So we went out to the park, and Jaden was hitting off of her, and this video just stood out to me because how she took this pitch. I mean, it was a ball, obviously you can see it was a ball low, and she didn't even flinch at it. And even though this was the first time she'd ever faced a college pitcher, after the first bucket, she hit very well off of her. She actually, in fact, ended up hitting one up the middle and hurt the pitcher on the last pitch that she hit, unfortunately. So
You take no responsibility for
I
that.
take no, yeah, but I had a screen up too. She somehow got it through. I mean, but the way she took this, and I mean, you can see she's swing all the way. And
Yeah, I think that's neat. She's swing all the way until about here, right? And then
right,
it's like, oh man, I see where this is going. And I mean, you can see she like puts on the brakes right about here. I mean, that's maybe about, I don't know, 12 feet, 10, 12 feet, not even. Is that about right?
probably, yeah. And this would have been the last round, I believe. And at the first round, I told her just throw fastballs. Let's see what Jade's doing, you know. And then the second round, she started hitting well. And I told her to the third round, I said, open it up. I said, your job right now is to strike her out. So I mean, she was throwing drops and changes and fastballs, and it just the way she took this pitch. And I had several videos, but this one was just really good. It just impressed me how well she took that, because the year before, she would get a little bit soft on that front side and kind of leak, even if she took the pitch. And on this one, she just, I mean, you can tell that vision training was really kicking in at this point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I remember when we got this video, and and I remember thinking like, wow, this is, I mean, this is, it's right there in real batting cage practice. And and this was, if I recall right, this was just as the lockdown kind of really started, and it was kind of tough to get any live pitching at all. To have this kind of opportunity after working on the iPad and stuff like that for so long, really kind of resonated with me too when I saw this. To really illustrate, I mean, I think it's one of the things with uHIT that's kind of one of these subtle points. Is like, everyone wants to hit the ball hard, everyone wants to hit the ball far, but hitting the ball hard, hitting the ball far is also a question of knowing where's your pitch, and that means also knowing where's not your pitch. And this this ability to have impulse control, to learn that kind of impulse control, that's going on a synaptic level in uHIT. That's really like where the basis of the research that went into uHIT came from, was about how the brain does this, how the brain decides to go and no go. Those are the circuits really that we're tuning here. And when you see, you can't get into Jaden's brain right there and see it, but you can stand back right here, and if you've got a good eye like Kyle does as a parent coach, you can really see it. And having it in slow motion here like this really allows that to be shown to to other parents as well. So this has been really helpful to show. I'm going to switch gears over to Jenna a little bit, and see kind of what the progress was there as well, because there was also really substantial movement with Jenna. And of course Jenna was coming to us from quite a bit of a different background, but she's in, when I say background, like hitting wise, right, she's coming to us in zone recognition. You see up on the screen here, with a very good zone recognition out of the gate, right? And so this is one of those situations where if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? But if it is good, can we make it better, right? And so that's really something that that we're gonna look into here. Her when she first did her assessment, actually, she was at 80%, 70, yeah, 80%, and her reaction time was 486. Now, the number that you saw earlier was from a kind of a junk session that we did, but she came in with a very high level of accuracy. She was great across the middle of the plate, and really good on the interior portion here and low and away here. But the reaction time is something that the customized training really prioritized. And one of the things that customized training for zone recognition does is, if you are already at a good ability to tell what's in the zone and what's not in the zone, what it then does is it tries to get you to recognize what's in the zone faster, right? So this is a little different than what we're talking about earlier with Jaden, where it's about an impulse control, slowing down, not going to the ball. This is more about, I know it's in the zone, how do I get there faster? Or how do I buy myself some more time. I think those are the exact words you used, Tracy, earlier. Like, how do they, buy some time for themselves up at the plate so that they gain those fractions of a second? And so while Jenna was doing this kind of customized training work, we used to call it development, of course, when she was at Glory, you see her accuracy basically hold the same, right? Her accuracy basically the same, 78 to 80. It's really, no difference. Over 36 sessions, so definitely putting in a lot of work there. But the big difference you see is her reaction time. Look at this 486 going down to 296. Okay. So, I mean, this huge change in being able to, drive power to the ball because you're recognizing it faster. And Tracy, maybe I thought you'd have a couple of points to put in there about kind of what you saw out on the field with Jenna's hitting over the last year.
Yeah, she definitely, her average as a whole went up. But Jenna's always been a powerful hitter. So she's always, for her, this helped her really hone in on the pitches that she could drive. So I would say where she's still hit a lot of home runs before, she hit a lot more since starting the training. She really, and when she hit them, there was no doubt. Like they were, 40 feet over kind of thing. But for her, it helped her because she definitely likes a certain type of pitch. And there's pitches she just, with her swing path, does not hit as well. Mm-hmm. So this was good for her in being able to identify sooner what the pitch was going to do, so she could, the ones that she knew she could drive, she didn't miss them as often as maybe a year ago she would have. Mm-hmm. So it definitely helped her with being able to add more power to the balls and be more comfortable with pitches she could handle.
Right. I mean, what's interesting, I think, with Jenna is I think when you look at her zone accuracy breakdown, it's across the middle. I'd say if you add up those numbers across the middle, definitely the highest. So the middle is looking like her sweet spot, and then below, if you add up those numbers across, higher than if you add up all the numbers in the top row, right? Yeah, so it definitely looks like she's a middle low hitter.
Definitely.
Is that right?
Definitely, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And part of that's just she doesn't, I think everyone has things they see better with their eyes. Mm-hmm. And she'll even, if it's a ball low, she'll still, if she thinks she can drive it, she'll take it because her swing path is just naturally in that area. So for her, it was, like I said, it just helped her really get that extra jump on taking the pitches she could drive and laying off the ones that she just doesn't hit so well yet, that she's still working on. Definitely upper pitches, high and in, has never, really liked those. But it's good because it helps you, recognize, it solidifies what you're good at. And then it also, you have to work on your weaknesses too. So that has also helped her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is there I think an aspect that you saw where, I mean, being able to drive power on every pitch. Okay, great. But is there some kind of, difference you saw with like her situational hitting, like being able to adapt in the situation, not just, I want to drive a double, drive a home run every time, but, this kind of awareness of the zone. Did you see any kind of nuances really with her situational, like adaptation based off of what's going on in the game?
I mean, yeah, obviously, when there's runners on, you're looking, the more you can, you want to hit those outside pitches, you want to move runners and stuff. She definitely got better at hitting changeups, which she had really struggled on that for a long time, and to feel comfortable to drive those.
Right.
So which is helpful in college now, because I mean, you see a lot of, the speed, the thing is, the speed only gets tougher. So that's what I say. She went from, on good days on a travel team, if you're facing, mid 60s, that's a good outing.
Mm-hmm.
And just in BP practice, I mean, when they're inter squad practices, the lowest she'll see is 64, 65. You know, girls just, they throw a lot harder at that level, and a lot of different pitches and a lot of different movements. So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely helped.
Right. Right. And Kyle, I mean, maybe you can talk about that with Jaden too. You know, any kind of like situational, you know, things that you noticed with her. I mean, I think there was one episode with an umpire, right? That you had kind of like this expanded strike zone where they're calling strikes in the other batter's box. And how did Jaden, you know, react in that kind of situation and, you know, be able to adapt?
She's really unflappable. I mean, I remember showing my dad video. It was the last tournament they played this year. It was in the fall. It was late October, and I mean, I couldn't tell I was in the outfield watching, but I went back and watched the video from behind. We had the camera up behind, and I mean, the balls were way out, and they're calling strikes, and she's just, and a lot of our girls were reacting, which, you know, you could see in their body language. And Jaden just steps out, doesn't even worry about it, gets two strikes, fouls a couple of them off out there, and then boom, you know, drives one up the middle. And then next at bat, she one hops the fence in left center, you know, and she never let it bother her. And earlier in the summer, I did a little montage of some swings from one of her tournaments, and I think I posted it on Facebook or something. And her coach of her team last summer texted me. He was like, wow, he said, I never really realized how good Jaden was at hitting pitches where they're at. Cause it was a video of her, you know, hitting rise balls at her neck. And it was a video of her, you know, hitting balls below her knees that were outside the other way. And just, it was just a variety of pitches. And every one she put a good swing on in that montage I made. And it just, I think it really is a testament to her work on her own with her swing and knowing her body, but also I think the uHIT has helped her realize that I do have time. I don't have to go out and get those balls, you know, because she does a very, very good job against upper level velocity she sees at her level. And even this year, she did a good job of hitting the slower pitching. And I think it's because she trusted the fact that she did have that time because of the vision training.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's, you know, knowing that you can, you know, everyone talks about slowing the game down, right? But no one really like tells you how to do that.
Right.
And
Right.
you know, it's one of those things that everyone talks about, and it's difficult to do because, you know, by the time you explain it to somebody, the pitch is past you, right? Or it's past them. And so it's really only something that we've seen on a neurological level can be taught experientially, right? And it has to be taught with really targeted feedback. You know, when it says correct, when it says incorrect, when it shows you what the pitch is, when it shows you what the pitch was that you were looking for. That's really, you know, what we've found in our research is the best channel really to teach that kind of, you know, information that translates into slowing the game down, right? So that you do feel like you have more time up there. And that's what, you know, when you're slumping, you feel the opposite of that. You feel like the ball is whizzing by you. It looks like a bottle cap. It's flying all these different directions. And you don't know where it's going. But when the game has slowed down for you, what's going on is really that you are predicting where it's going. And these are the various, you know, kind of tools we try to work with in uHIT to try to do that. I'll actually just switch the share then to just show a quick survey before we get into questions that were sent in. A quick survey of what kind of tools are available to you with the customized training, and then kind of you can navigate yourself if you're doing this like in a team format or something. So we're actually going to snoop in on one of our minor league, recently become major league players accounts. This is Jared Oliva. He's in the Pirates organization, and we met him 3 or 4 years ago when he was a high A, double A player. And he, you know, continued working with us since then. And we were really excited when he got his first major league hit this year. But I'm going to snoop in on his count because we're going to go from the main menu. Your stats is what I talked about earlier, is where you can find details of what's going on with your zone and pitch recognition. But we're going to go down here to the lower corner to the you know, customized games, really, because that's where the Pro Player, or uHIT Plus is what it's going to be called very soon, version of uHIT allows you to, obviously you have your customized training, obviously allows you to go into your customized training, which is what Jenna and what Jaden have been doing, and many others. But we're going to scroll to the right here a little bit, actually, to look at kind of what are the components of customized training. So one big component is zone enhancement, right? Working on those parts of the zone that we looked at earlier in Jenna's breakdown, working on the parts of the zone that we looked at earlier with Jaden's as well. And then systematically targeting certain pitches, targeting certain speeds of those pitches, the handedness of the pitcher you want to be facing, all done within zone enhancement training. Now, reaction time training is something a little different, right? You're still working with calling balls and strikes, but what's going on there, this is really going to slowing the game down, is what's going on there is we are showing you the pitch, and when you get it right, the next pitch, we show you just a little bit less of it. And then you get that one right, we show you just a little bit less of the next pitch. So what we're trying to get you to do is see that early movement as early, as quickly as you can, and then predict the rest of the way it's going to go. Because what that does is that's really what's going on when they talk about slow the game down. It's not that the ball's going faster. It's still going 68. It's still going 75, right? But you predict where it's going to go, so it feels like it's actually slowing down. Is what's going on a neurological level. And so that's really a big key with reaction time training. Jenna probably got that a little bit more than Jaden did, because she had such a high accuracy already in recognizing in zone and out zone. And we saw some of the effects of that with her reaction time going from like 480 something in milliseconds down to like 290 something in milliseconds. And that's really where that links back to what we were talking about earlier with, the power, really where the power comes from. And no training would be complete without an assessment and then a reassessment, right? And so you have the ability to do that in uHIT as a uHIT Plus or uHIT Pro Player, as it used to be called, for both your pitch recognition and for your zone recognition skills. It's kind of built in there for you with customized training, where every 9 innings, on the 9th inning, you get a reassessment in terms of, all right, where are you now? Obviously, to get through those 9 innings, you need to complete this inning before you can unlock this next one, which is going to be a little harder. And this one is going to be a little harder. So we stepwise kind of march you towards a reassessment. It's not just getting reps, right? It's getting targeted reps to your specific strengths and weaknesses. But these are the tools that are in there under customized games, under customized training. And these are really the pieces that customized training with AI uses to specifically hone uHIT to your strengths and weaknesses. So someone goes into customized training, and then they find their name. Here it's Jared's, one of his strike zone recognition rounds, and he just jumps in and goes. So those are really the ways that that uHIT's customized training works, and how it allows you to really work on the particular parts of the zone, the particular pitch speeds that you need to focus on, or the handedness of the pitcher. I know it's showing a right-handed pitcher. Now it's left-handed. And so these are the kind of things that are available in uHIT Plus, in Pro Player, and particularly when you add on customized training. So I want to open up to some questions here because I think there are a lot of parents out there that have plenty to learn. Kyle from you and Tracy from you. And so we asked people to email in some questions, or if you do have questions, you can put them in the chat box. You can activate that from a button below, and that can spawn a question on the right. So I'll start off with one that was written in by email to us over the last few days. This is from I think it's a parent coach. I'm not really sure, but it's her name is Julie. She's in Southern California, and she's asking, how do you motivate accountable practice for your kids? Like, how do you motivate them to be accountable for their own work? I mean, I kind of think back to when I was a kid and my parents were trying to get me to practice the piano, right? And I didn't want to do it. So and then at some point, they motivated me to do it. How do, Tracy, I'll start with you, and then Kyle will turn to you after that. I mean, what are some ways that you've had to motivate, Jenna at times? when she didn't really take to it right away, or did she just take to it naturally right away?
She's always been self-motivated. So when it comes to anything, but I remember just she was 12 and it was like on that cusp, when they have the horrible weekends and it was back when she was a pitcher and it just seems like everything's hard and she was having a breakdown. And we were like, you either have to commit 100% to something or not. We were at the crossroads kind of thing if she wanted to play. And we were just like, it's something you have to do yourself. It was like the tough love speech that sometimes parents have to give their kids. And we kind of left it, it was her decision. You either keep playing or you don't want to play, or and we woke up to the pinging of a bat and a ball at 5 o'clock in the morning the next day, where she was hitting off a tee. We were like, what is that? So she was 12. And after that, that was probably the only time we ever had that conversation with her. She has always been self-motivated. This past year, she, like tons of other kids lost their senior year of softball, and it was trying to get ready. She, I think, ended up only having 2 travel tournaments before she went off to Virginia Tech. So it was like, Mom, every day, can we go hit? Can we, scrounging to find a field somewhere where we could get on and hit. And she just has always been that way, self-motivated to get better and do whatever she can with whatever's available. So that's why this forum has been so good for her, because it is something she can do, if it's raining out, if she doesn't have access, if it's a weekend off, if it's, she's going to come back from break after 20-hour practice weeks. She'll come back at Thanksgiving this next week, and, she'll be able to, hit something she can still do every day, even though she doesn't have team practices. And so, yeah, I didn't have that problem. I know some parents probably do. Now I have a 15-year-old son that's a constant problem with, but with her, not so much. So
you get him starting using uHIT. Well, no, I think that's I think like that kind of like, you light a fire somewhere with them, right? And then all of a sudden, like the fuse just takes care of the rest. It just starts burning, like in Mission Impossible. It just starts going, and and then there's, at 5 o'clock in the morning, there's explosion with, metal ball, metal bat on balls. But I think, no, I mean, that's an important element. I think it's kind of one of these mystery, pieces for, for parents when they, they found something that they think is going to help their son, their daughter reach the next level. And then, and then they can't get them to use it. Right. And then they feel bad that they got it. And then they feel doubly bad that, that their son or daughter isn't getting better and what they want. And so, that's something that has come up, a few times for us, because, it's one of the things with uHIT. I mean, there's some level of kind of team aspect to it. There's some level of like leaderboards and things like that we do within teams, but it is mostly an individualized training. And it's something that I think like has been easy for, it's easy in the like 12 to 13 kind of age range to get started with sports, because it's like, well, all my friends are doing it, right? And but then when it comes to like, taking the bat out there at 5 o'clock in the morning, doing weight training, doing, speed training and things like that, those are pretty isolated experiences a lot of the time. And there's not going to be that like social support structure all the time, to keep you motivated. Now, one of the nice things with uHIT, I think, that we did with Glory, with the Glory Fast Pitch team, was that the other players were doing it. So it helped, each other see like, hey, how's Jenna doing? Hey, how's Christina, Susie's daughter doing? And it gave, players a baseline to be like, oh, that one's putting in work, and, and this one's doing really well.
There's some competition that goes with it amongst, if you can get a whole team doing it, or a group of girls that actually know each other, like there's competition that goes with it too, which definitely helps.
Yeah, great. And Kyle, how does, motivating Jaden, I mean, how does some of that, kind of play out for you? Can you talk about that a little bit?
I mean, I won't say she doesn't need reminders on things from time to time, but you're talking about a girl that I've probably never ever in my life had to wake up. Like, she gets up on her own. She sets an alarm. She packs her lunch every day. She grabs the iPad usually and does uHIT by herself. I mean, we had a little bit of a period where she may not have done much. I would think we talked about the other day, but I mean, we actually have to, we made a rule that in November, she's not allowed to touch a ball or a bat. There's no softball in our house in November, which is hard. Because, you know, she sees some of her friends, and she has an 8-year-old sister that is just getting into softball, and we've been letting her do stuff. And every day Jaden says, oh, it's not fair. Lexi gets to do softball and I don't, but we kind of have to, you know, take that away from her a little bit, because she's a 3-sport athlete as well. So it's not like she's not doing anything, but she hasn't been that way. Now, and honestly, I wasn't that way either once I got to high school. I did go through a period in middle school where I really needed to be pushed by my dad a lot. Like, he had to always try to get me to do stuff. But once I got through that and got on the other side, I was very self-motivated myself. As a teacher, though, and a coach, I do see that side. I'll just tell you a little quick story. This week it happened. I had a kid come up to me that I have that he's a bigger kid, and he asked me flat out, he's like, how do I enjoy exercise more? Because I teach PE. And I said, well, I go, a lot of times people don't enjoy exercise, but I'll tell you this, if you sit down and set a personal goal, something that's very small and it's process oriented, and I just threw out the example I used was, let's say we use squats. You're going to squat 5 days a week. I say, when you reach that goal, how do you think you're going to feel? If you squat 5 days this week and you do 10 squats 5 days this week, how are you going to feel? And he looked at me and said, probably pretty good. I said, there you go. I said, so then you make the goal a little bit more difficult. And if you reach it the next week, you'll feel even better about yourself. And just, if you can try to somehow put it into terms that the kid understands, where they're dangling the carrot in front of them and they're being self-accountable about it, you're going to have a lot more, it's going to be a lot greater chance of them following through than if it's constantly you saying, do this, do that, and giving them something material that motivates them. Because material things will motivate for a little bit, but it's got to be intrinsic. And I found the best way to do that is allow them to be part of their assessment process, their goal setting, and basically let the kids somehow drive their ship. And as a parent or coach, then you have to figure that out with them. And one of the great things I like about uHIT is every kid has one of these, pretty much, unless you're mean like me and you won't let your kid have one. But they have that, and a lot of kids like video games, and if you can show them the progress they're having and use it in that capacity, you know, that could be a carrot that you can dangle in front of them where they do eventually become self-motivated to continue with the training.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually want to point out, as you did talk about goals, I do want to, show that quickly on, I hope it's here, nope, that's the wrong one. Is that there's a in uHIT, there's a nice kind of goal guide to tell you kind of where you got to go next. And it's something that, you know, it was released over the summer, but there were a lot of things released over the summer. The tutorial in the beginning kind of walks you through it. We talked about, before that you've got your stats really here. Where you can tap in and see kind of how you're doing by different pitch and zone recognition, how many points you have. But right here is where we actually give you what your current goal is that you're shooting for. And you know, keep in mind that the points here, XPs, those are you get more points the more accurate you are calling balls and strikes, recognizing pitches, and the faster you're doing it, right? So we make it really simple for you to keep track of where's your next goal going to be, right? So that, you know, you've always got a clear indication of where you are and where you're going. And just like with those squats we're talking about there, you know, it gives you a very clear sense of like, hey, if I do 2 to 3 innings this week, I'm going to build up some points here and I'm going to get that much closer to, to my goal. So I want to actually then pivot that question to, talking about goals and how points work with sessions. To a question that came in here from Harold. So he asked us, since one of the goals is to slow the game down, slow the ball down, does pitch recognition using your fingers, so I guess it means tapping the screen, with uHIT translates seamlessly to pitch recognition at the plate swinging. And Kyle actually, thankfully, jumped in on the text on this. It was very helpful while we were doing a couple other questions here. He's talking about how seamlessness, I think the seamlessness of it, this is Kyle here talking, the seamlessness of it happens from using uHIT to address reaction and vision training, yet also training your swing. So from your experience, Kyle, you've seen that it's been this kind of organic transition, right? From doing uHIT, tapping on the screen, because you're kind of tuning the synapses so that when you get out of the field, the swing is being now replaced with that video like we saw of Jaden with the bat, right?
Yeah, I mean, with any kind of training, specific training is important, but it doesn't have to be extremely specific to work, and hitting, as Tracy said, we have to buy time. And the longer you feel like you have, or the earlier you're able to recognize it, the easier your job becomes. So when doing uHIT, you're getting the shape of the pitch, you're getting the speed of the pitch, you're getting location, you're getting pitch types, you're getting all of that stimulus, and you're reacting to it. Right. So whether it's with a finger or whether you're using the remote, you're getting that real life training. And then if you're training your swing, I just think it kind of naturally and organically happens. And I know that there's the remote. We have the baseball remote at the facility. We don't have the softball one for Jaden yet. But I just think that whatever you're doing, it really does help. And even if you're in a garage with a tee, you can use something. I saw somebody on Twitter the other day use an iPad. He had his son hit onto a tee, and he had, the iPad was green or red, and when it blinked green, his son had to hit. I think that's a great way to incorporate. I think that would help. But if you can see anything from a machine or front toss, I just think it happens organically, because you're getting game experience, you're getting practice experience, and then the uHIT is that upper level. Like, I'm trying to react really, really fast here, and it's like anything, let's train at a higher threshold than we're going to compete at, and then it makes competing easier. And when you're using uHIT like that, I don't think there's any concern or worry in the seamlessness of it. I really do think it's very natural in the whole aspect of training.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I want to point out to everybody, both Tracy and Kyle, they're here on their own time. Like, they just wanted to come and talk about how hitting worked with their daughters as they're, shooting for the higher and higher levels of play. This is all just really from their experience, and the kind of tools that Jenna used, that Jaden's using right now. Those are things that I do want to make sure everybody has a chance to experience and find on their own. So I'm going to put into the chat, which will pop up on the right side here, a link you can use to go to an order form for the baseball customized training. And so that form is right there for you. During the session, usually it's to do left-handed, right-handed pitchers, for zone and pitch. It's kind of 4 items right there. Each one of them, we usually do $8 a month. In a package, we do it at $29. If you get it during the session right now, we bring that down to $20 a month for you. So both of those options are here in the panel here. So if we do see those orders from during the session right now, we'll be able to give you a pretty steep discount, so you can get all 4 lefty and right-handed pitchers and pitch and strike recognition all together in one customized training package. So those links are available to you in the chat right now. So I think as we're getting to an hour right here, I did want to incorporate 1 or 2 other questions before we wrap up. There was a follow-up question on the last one about translating from tapping to getting to the field. And that question in the chat was, what's considered a session? And we can answer that one really quickly here. A session is just an inning. So it's, did I go through the 12 pitches that were assigned to me? In the assessment, usually we go about 24, 30 pitches or more, because we need to get a big enough sample size of what your reaction time is looking like in the zone, what your recognition is looking like in different parts of the zone. So a session in the assessment phase can go a little bit longer. And once we get that baseline measurement of you, how you're doing, the customized training will actually modulate how long a session is for you based on, what level you're at. If we think that, we want to challenge you a little bit more and we want to push like your attentional demands a little bit, we'll make that session a little bit longer. It'll be a longer at bat. You got to sustain the attention over a little bit longer period of time. Those are extra ways that uHIT challenges you. Whereas, if we see that, there's a big issue with recognizing horizontal and vertical movement, we're not going to do that for 30 pitches in a row, right? We're just going to zoom that into 6, hit that milestone, go on to the next level. So, it's kind of the difference between, watching 20 hours worth of a movie versus watching, 40, 30-minute episodes, and you just, kind of binge them on Netflix, right? So you kind of chain one accomplishment to the other, kind of like we're talking about earlier, Kyle, like, one goal, very manageable goal in front of you, and then that propels you on to the next. So just a short answer there to what's considered a session. We'll have just one more question. There were a few others written in, but I think we might be running out of time, and want to be mindful of the 1 hour time slot here. This is from Coach Wynn in North Carolina. He wrote about really trying to ask, I think it sounds to me, about how much time, this might be more geared to you, Tracy, but also, I think Kyle, you could definitely, chime in on this. How much work off the field do your kids put in to have a shot really at kind of reaching the level they're at? He specifically asked about college ball. So I think, Tracy, more for you, but Kyle too, after Tracy, kind of at, how much work off the field are you seeing Jenna put in, both when she was at home and now she's gone on to D1? Tracy?
Well, she worked, I would say, it's kind of like the old adage when you go to school, if you're in class for an hour, it's 3 hours of homework or something like that. She definitely, the off the field is so much more than just playing on the weekends. It was, like you said, it was eye vision training. She had a throwing coach, a hitting coach, speed and agility. She was a good athlete, so she played multiple sports in high school, which I highly recommend, which helped her with deficiencies softball wise, during the whole season. And it also helped her manage her time. I think it's showing its benefits now that she's in college, because she stayed busy. She was used to that daily schedule of practicing something and playing. But she definitely, this past, with the pandemic and not being able to play in this summer, definitely logged a lot of hours in. And depending on the level that you play in college, I know Division III is not quite as demanding. There's a huge gap between high academic Division I schools versus Power 5 schools, because Jenna had really thought about going, to a higher academic school, and a lot of those practice, 8 hours a week versus, the P5s, they're going to get their full 20. They're going to use every second that they're allotted to use. Mm-hmm. So it definitely takes a lot of effort, and it's constant training, whether it's, continuous every day, or you take breaks, or you use the time to focus on one thing. It's not that you're going out for 3 hours every day and doing all three. You might just, I'm going to work on my throwing, I'm going to work on defense. But she definitely put in work constantly. There was never take time off. And like I said, in her case, from the time she committed as a junior till the day she left, it was, that clock was ticking. She understood that her time, the hourglass was flipped. She was running out of time to get ready. So she was trying to do her best to do all she could on her own.
Right. And you're not going to do vision training every day. You're not going to do speed training every day. We saw that actually with her usage of uHIT. There would be periods of time where, she'd go every few days, every other day. There would be a period of time where, kind of like with, Jaden right now, where it's just like November is no softball, right? And so, there can be, more or less use of vision training during that kind of period of time. So I guess, Kyle, we'll kind of head towards the end with your response on that. How much time do you see Jaden putting in terms of work off the field when she's not in practice? And really, how are you seeing that translate when she is back on the field, if at all?
She plays 3 sports as well. She plays basketball and volleyball for her school, and then she plays club volleyball as well. So our goal is always to try to hit in the off season at least 3 days a week. That's our goal. And the biggest reason is from a physiological standpoint, um, the fitness quality of power reduces after about 3 days. And I've noticed using her blast sensor that if we don't hit about 3 times a week, there's a little bit of a drop in bat speed there. And I think that's a great tool just to manage, like, are you where you're supposed to be wherever your goals are? Like, our goals are always to be at the top of that for her age level. And if she's there, then we don't have to address that. We just keep doing what we're doing and address something else that's deficient. But I mean, she puts a lot of time in. I mean, there's the uHIT, and she strength trains at least 2 days a week year round. Right now, even she sprained her ankle at basketball and she's still weight training. We're just not doing lower body. But like today, she went out and it was just 20 or 30 minutes where she did some stuff. And we talk a lot about the compounding effect of small amounts of work. You know, if she's 12 years old now and she does this every week, and just slowly increases the volume as her body and hormones mature and stabilize, where are you going to be? How far ahead are you going to be from the kids that don't do it? Because I mean, let's be honest, there's a lot of girls going to college that probably don't do a lot of weight training or other things like that, but she does spend a lot of time. And that's what was great for our family with COVID is we got out every day and played catch. I mean, we did arm care and played catch, and I mean, that was tremendous. Her throwing strength, her arm strength really increased, and knock on wood, she's never had a problem with arm issues. And she was the only catcher on her team this summer, so she was catching every game of tournaments, and I think that's just because she's willing to do that stuff on her own. So it's, you know, it's probably not as much time as Jen has put in, but is very consistent and well managed by her. She's very smart about what she does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and that's great to hear. And I think that can really be a mold for other parents and their sons, daughters to follow as they're trying to reach these higher and higher levels of play, working on their own game, working in a team setting. I will remind everybody that we did put in the chat a couple of links if this kind of customized training is something that you want for your son or daughter, or if you have a team that you work with, you have some other parents in mind that you think would benefit from this. We did put the baseball AI training order form in the chat. We did put the softball AI training order form in the chat. And if ordered during this session, the usual $29 for left-handed, right-handed pitchers, zone and pitch, each usually going $8 a month. Now only $20 if done during this session. So I think as we get to the end here, I want to thank Tracy. I want to thank Kyle. I want to thank everybody else who logged in, and then everyone else who's going to eventually see this on YouTube. We see a lot of people, just RSVP for these events so that they get the link later on when they can watch it on their own and really absorb all the info that we cover in these uHIT Academy seminars. So I want to, thank you all for joining. Again, they didn't have to be here. This is completely on Tracy and Kyle's own time, and in their own interest in furthering how Jenna and Jaden are progressing with their own games. And we want to thank you directly for that kind of support. I think it goes a long way to help a player move along to the next level, to have supportive parent coaches like both of you. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you to everybody else who's joined us. Thank you everyone for writing in questions ahead of time. And we got to most of those questions here and got to a few that popped up in the chat along the way. I will put out a heads up right now that we will have another uHIT Academy seminar in December. In that seminar, we're going to be focusing specifically on vision training. We're going to be talking to Ryan Harrison, who's actually the name of his program company, I don't know what you call it, is Slow the Game Down. So he's particularly focused on vision training techniques. So we're going to talk to them, see about how they do things a little bit differently than what we do at uHIT. But just to give you a sense of kind of where the next uHIT Academy seminar is going. And then in January, we'll have something kind of similar topic, speaking to a journalist in the UK who just wrote a book together with a neurophysiology professor at University of Utah on the topic of expert skill development in sports. And so that's going to be coming up a little bit later in January. You'll be getting a notice about that. So again, want to thank everybody for joining. You do have in the chat the opportunity to get the AI training, the customized training at a discounted price if ordered during this session here. So thank you everybody for joining. Tracy, thank you. Kyle, thank you. And everybody have a good rest of your Sunday.